Now let's discuss ecological literacy, particularly the topic of Dark Green School Program, ecological living practices, inner and outer ecology, integrating ecological literacy into the curriculum. Now let's first know the lesson objectives for our discussion. Una, define the concept of Dark Green School Program, discuss the ecological living practices, compare the inner and outer ecology, explain how ecological literacy integrated into the curriculum. Now let's proceed for our first topic, the Dark Green School Program in Philippine Environmental Perspective. Pag sinabi nating Dark Green School, it is a school that delivers environmental education through assimilation of the environmental philosophy by the student in formal lesson, as well as in activities outside the classroom. And when we say Dark Green School Program, ito naman yung mga events or programs na pinoprovide ng school to promote environmental stewardship. So, ini-include nila sa school philosophy yung environmental philosophy, pati rin sa mga activities inside and outside the classroom. Ang halimbawa na lang dito ay yung mga programa na sa school. Halimbawa, yung pagkakaroon ng Adapt a Place wherein yung mga student naglilinis sa paligid ng school. And halimbawa din sa mga public school, to promote environmental stewardship, yung mga pagtatapon ng basura, ini-encourage yung mga student na ihiwalay yung mga nabubulok sa hindi nabubulok. And also yung mga plastic bottles, meron nilalagay yung mga student sa isang area kung saan dun lang tinatapon yung mga plastic bottles. So, to have a Dark Green School program in a particular institution, so ito daw yung mga principle or philosophy na dapat meron ng isang school. Una, be clean and neat as evidence of good management and housekeeping. So, dapat yung institution or yung Dark Green School ay malinis kasi ito yung nagpapakita ng maganda at malinis na paligid. Next, call for green spaces, appropriate land use, planning, conservation of materials and energy, proper waste management, segregation use of appropriate materials and avoidance of harmful ones, and respect to others' right to a smoke-free air. So, di ba nga, sa school, dapat walang mga taong nandun para lang manigarilyo or iniiwasan yung pagtapon ng basura kung saan-saan lang. At meron tayong proper waste management na sinasabi, yung paghihiwalay ng mga basurang nabubulok sa hindi nabubulok. Next is, have management policies and guidelines that will create a healthful and ecological campus. So, halimbawa nito is yung rules na kalat mo, linis mo. So, dapat yung mga pinagamitan natin bilang student or pinagamitan ng mga estudyante, tinatapon sa tamang basurahan. So, yung school dapat meron din policies and guidelines. Next, have a well-planned environmental curriculum for all levels, adequately oriented and trained faculty in administrative, library, and financial support. So, yung mga Dark Green School, meron dapat silang environmental curriculum in each level. Dapat oriented din yung mga administrative, library, and meron din dapat financial support for the activities. So, dapat hindi lang sa mismong inside the classroom pinopromote yung environmental stewardship, but also in sa administrative din, yung mga mas nakakataas dapat alam din nila yun. And also sa library din. Next is have faculty and student who are aware of and appreciate the environmental programs of the school. So, hindi porket ipopromote or i-encourage sa student na magkaroon ng maayos na paligid or ingatan yung environment ng school. Dapat yung mga faculty member din ay aware sa program na ginagawa nila. So, hindi lang dapat yung mga student. Since nga yung mga faculty member din naman yung magpo-provide ng programs para sa mga bata. Next is reach out to an outside community to spread concern for Mother Earth and facilitate projects and programs that improve the environment. So, di ba nga, minsan may mga, or hindi naman minsan, madalas, may mga activity, mga students na ipinapakita sa community na ganun yung pag-facilitate ng or pag-improve ng environment. Halimbawa, kapag may tawag dito sa school, yung pagkakaroon ng clean up drive sa school. Yan, isa yan sa pagpapakita ng pag-reach out sa community. Next is engage in research that adds knowledge in the ways of nature and the impact of human activities. So, dito naman, yung guardian school din, sila din nag-engage or gumagawa ng research para makapag-ambag sa pag-nurture or pag-improve pa ng environment. Halimbawa, yung school nagpo-provide ng survey research para malaman kung ano yung mga nagiging epekto ng particular action ng isang tao. At pamamagitan ng research na yun, nagpo-provide sila ng solution para makatulong naman sa pag-improve or pag-sustain ng environment. Next, let's proceed in ecological living practices. Sabi ni Capra 2003, sustainable ecological living is based on different sets of principles. So, sabi ni Capra, may iba't iba tayong way kung paano natin ipapakita yung sustainable ecological living. Siyempre kasi meron tayong iba't ibang principles. So, sabi niya, to assess the impact of our choices and action, we need criteria from studying the basic facts of life as follows. So, ano ba yung mga criteria na tinutukoy ni Capra? Ito yon. Una, yung matter cycle continually through the web of life. Mahalagang malaman natin na yung everything in our sa paligid, continually lang din siya nagkakaroon sa buong buhay natin. And most of the energy na ginagamit natin or in our ecological cycle nanggagaling sa araw. Next, diversity assures resilience. So, yung pagkakaroon ng diversity, hindi lang naman siya ganun ka-negative pagdating sa environment. It assures also resilience or yung pagiging handa natin. So, next, one species waste is another species food. And life does not take over the planet by combat, but by networking. So sinasabing one species waste is another species food. Halimbawa, yung decay ng isang animals, pwede nating magamit bilang compost and pagpapataba sa lupa. And life does not take over the planet by combat, but by networking. So, hindi lang instant yung take over ng planet, it's by the help of each other, or tinatawag nating networking. So, therefore, ecological living means to live in a way that it may tinatawag tayong 3 dimensions of sustainability, which are environmental, economic, and social. So, yung tatlong yan describes environmental as an impact of our activities, the causes of which come from the socio-economic and political system of society. So, sinasabi din na ecological living gives larger understanding of how things connect and an independent that begins with it addressing the causes of negative impact on the environment. Ecological living and literacy, therefore, provides people with the full knowledge and wisdom for taking concrete action on their immense desire to contribute to a better world and future. So, yung pagkakaroon ng ecological living and understanding of literacy, bibigay sa atin bilang mga tao ng kaalaman para makapag-take tayo ng action or makapag-contribute sa pagkakaroon ng maayos na mundo or maayos na kinabukasan. So, therefore, ecological living means to live in a way that it first respect and replenish the carrying capacity of our planet. So, dapat mahalagang irespeto natin kung ano lang yung kakayahang i-provide ng ating planeta. Next, honors our interrelatedness with all expression of life. Enhance the qualitative aspect of our relationships. Bring forth the best of our human capacities for the co-creation of an ecological, sustainable, and caring world. So, kung ano yung kakayahan natin bilang human, dapat mag-contribute tayo in giving creation or co-creation sa pag-sustain na kung anong meron ng mundo natin. Sabi ni Smithsman, practical suggestion how we can support the charges for sustainability through ecological living. In order to sustain outer action for ecological living, it is helpful to remember and draw inspiration from the inner or personal development dimension of ecological living. So, para maipakita natin yung support for sustainability in our environment, dapat lagi nating tandaan yung pagkakaroon ng inspiration from inner or personal development ng ecological living natin. Ano ba yung tinutukoy ni Smithsman na inner ecology? So, itong inner ecology, it is based on your personal. So, wala pang kinalaman dito yung outside or the community. So, mahalaga din na sa ating manggagaling muna yung pagkakaroon ng ecology or pag-sustain natin sa self before proceeding in outer ecology, which is helping our environment. So, una, paano ba tayo magkakaroon ng inner ecology? First, become a catalyst of change to help co-create a better world and future. So, dapat sa atin nanggagaling yung initiative to help in changing our world para mas mapaayos pa ito. Para din sa mga future generation. Then, care for and relate with non-human beings while spending time with nature. So, ito, halimbawa na ito, kung pupunta ka sa isang lugar para mag-spend ng time with nature, so kung ano yung nadatnan mo, halimbawa, masyado kang nagandahan sa paligid at may nakita kang maraming bulaklak, flower lover ka. So, hindi lang porket gusto mo yung bulaklak na yun, pipitasin mo na lang. So, matuto tayong makipag-relate with that flower na i-care natin yung meron doon sa paligid na yun. So, panatilihin natin malinis kapag pupunta tayo sa isang lugar. Ganun. Then, make the most of sustainability crisis that forces us to learn, dream, design, act, and relate in new ways. And join the rest around the world in becoming agents of sustainability. So, tayo din dapat tumutulong or sumasama sa paggawa ng action in sustaining our environment. Next, nurture nature by taking care of our body and become aware of our natural body rhythms. So, hindi tayo makakapag-help or makakapag-contribute in helping our environment if kung yung sarili natin, hindi rin natin inaalagaan. Next, become more energy efficient and learn to recycle our own energy. So, natuto tayong mag-balance ng paggamit ng mga energy resources natin. Kung kayang i-recycle, mag-recycle tayo. So, become more energy efficient, pagtitipid ng tubig, and matutong gumamit ng tama ng kuryente. Kung hindi naman kailangan masyado ang ilaw, o kung gabi naman na matutulog na lang na, pwede namang i-turn off para makatipid sa energy resources natin. Then, learn to compost our own waste and no need to dump this into others. So, matuto tayong i-compose yung mga basura natin kaysa itapon pa natin sa iba. Mapunta pa sa dump site. So, yung pagko-compose, halimbawa, mag-dig ka lang ng kahit medyo mababaw na lupa, then doon itapon yung mga nabubulok na bagay. Then, kahit doon sa lupang yun, magagamit mo pa para sa pagbibigay ng pataba sa mga halaman. Become aware of rights, needs, and well-being of future generations and explore how we can support this in our actions. So, dapat alamin natin yung mga magiging pangangailangan ng future generation. So, huwag tayo maging selfish na kung anong meron tayo ngayon, enjoy hanggang sa dumating yung point na yung mga tao sa susunod na panahon ay hindi na makapakinabang ng meron tayo ngayon. Next, in terms of outer ecology naman, sabi dito, educate ourselves about the resources that we, our family, and our organization utilizes to fulfill and sustain our needs. So, matuto tayong alamin yung mga resources na meron yung pamilya natin o yung sarili natin at kung paano yun i-utilize para mapanatili yung pangangailangan natin. And use the 4 R's, which is reduce, reuse, repurpose, and recycle. Bawasan ng paggamit ng mga resources natin. Kung pwede pang magamit, gamitin natin. And recycle natin kung pwede pang naman magamit kahit paano yung bagay na yun. Next, be aware of the real price of goods and sources that we use. Cheap products often have hidden costs. Example, the cost of child labor, animal cruelty, or degradation of ecosystems. Halimbawa dito, bumibili ka ng mga bagay na mura, pero yung mga bagay naman na pala yung mura na yon is nakakapag-contribute ng destruction or pagkasira ng environment natin. Next, find out any child labor practices of natural resources that were sacrificed in the process of producing products and services. So, alamin din natin yung mga products na on behind of the product, yung process pala na ginamit is ginamit yung mga natural resources natin na hindi man lang binabalik yung pinaggamitan. Halimbawa, sa paggamit ng yung sa puno, sa pagtatanim ng puno, ginamit nila yung puno in producing papers. Tapos, dapat alamin natin kung yung mga organization or institution na yun is nag-give back or nagtatanim ulit sila after providing that product. Next, recycle gray water. Yung mga gamit na tubig, pwede natin i-recycle. Kung halimbawa, pinaghugasan ng pinggan, pwede natin or pinaglabahan, pwede natin panlinis ng mga bagay na pwedeng linisin or yung pagdidilig sa halaman. Collect and use rainwater. So, ito, sa mga parents natin or sa mga pamilya natin, napapansin natin kapag umuulan, yung iba nagsasahod ng timbang. So, isang action yun na nagpapakita na outer ecology. Tapos yung naipon na tubig, minsan ginagamit sa paglilinis ng sasakyan, ganun. So, it is one of outer ecology. Next, create an organic vegetable garden. So, isa rin tong paraan upang ipakita yung outer ecology natin. So, kung may vacant area sa labas ng bahay nyo, pwede kayong magtanim ng vegetable. Next, compost organic waste and use the compost in the garden. So, ito yung halimbawa ko kanina. Yung mga organic waste, pwede natin gamitin sa pagpapataba ng lupa at makapag-produce tayo ng food, katulad ng vegetable. Create garden with balance of endemic, indigenous plants to support local wildlife such as animals, insect, trees, and plants. Next, create a roof garden, green roof, as a natural air conditioning alternative to increase garden space. So, di ba nga, karaniwan halos ng bahay ngayon hindi napalapad na kung saan nakakapagbigay ng malaking espasyo. Karaniwan ngayon yung bahay pataas na. So, limited na lang yung spaces sa paggawa ng garden. So, in-encourage din yung green roof kung saan nasa taas yung garden or nasa rooftop ng isang bahay. Kayo, kung may rooftop kayo, pwede nyo gawing garden yun. Next is buy organic and local product as much as possible. So, ito naman para maipakita natin yung support in organic and local products na meron tayo. Support local businesses and organizations that care for our planet. So, dapat hindi lang sinusuportahan natin yung mga ibang products from other countries, but also dapat yung sa atin din, lalo na kung itong products na to sinusuportahan upang magkaroon tayo ng maayos na environment or para mapanatili yung kagandahan ng environment natin. So, in integrating the ecological literacy into curriculum, so may 5 tayong strategy. Sabi dito, the Center for Ecoloiteracy year 2015 promotes a variety of teaching strategies based on practices that are developmentally appropriate to students' level and are brain-based to foster knowledge, skill, values essential to sustainable living, according yun kay Sly. So, ano na yung mga strategies na yun? I know familiar kayo sa mga strategies nito. Yung place-based learning, project-based learning, Socratic inquiry, experiential learning, and interdisciplinary learning. Sinasabi din na mas natututo ang bata kapag ginagamit natin yung iba't ibang strategies, lalo na sa pagpo-provide ng hands-on activities, and nakakapag-reflect sila and nakakapagbigay sila ng sarili ng opinion and pagbibigay din ng other opinion para magkaroon ng combination of thoughts na i-discuss in the class. So, ito yung mga iba't ibang strategies. First, the place-based learning. Sabi, place-based projects are integrated back into classroom lessons Students want to learn in order to apply their knowledge to solving real problems. Students play an active role in redefining and recreating projects. Students collaborate with local citizens, organizations, agency, business, and governments. So yung place-based projects, hindi lang siya for outdoor learning. So sa place-based learning, kung nasaan ang isang bata, so ginagamit yung place na yun in pagkakaroon ng kaunawaan sa paligid. Halimbawa, i-integrate or i-include mo yung situation na meron sila sa paligid nila in learning the environmental issues. Halimbawa, itanong mo sa bata na about ano yung issue or problem na meron dun sa barangay nila. And then, from that issue, kung saan nandun siya, pwede natin gamitin yun or yung way na yun to construct their knowledge on how they can help their community or their barangays. Students help make plans that shape the future of their social, physical, and economic environments. Students are encouraged to view their community as an ecosystem and to understand the relationships and processes necessary to support healthy living. So, papaunawa natin sa mga student na yung community nila or yung ecosystem na meron sila ay mahalaga sa kanila para mabuhay. So, dapat i-encourage natin sila in supporting and helping their community for them also makatulong sa kanila. Next is yung project-based learning. Using the strategy, research shows its impact on learner, such as increase critical skills of students, foster positive attitude toward subjects such as mathematics and exemplary performance with conceptual questions and applied problems, and improve positive study and work habits, problem solving capability, and self-esteem. So, through project-based learning daw, sa pamamagitan ng ganitong strategy, yung mga bata nagkakaroon ng critical thinking skills at na ipapakita nila yung kung ano yung natutunan nila at ang dapat pa nilang ma-improve through project-based learning. Then they can able to solve different problem and na-improve din nila yung self-esteem nila. And when we say Socratic inquiry naman, sa Socratic inquiry, in return, this strategy impact student learning as evidenced by the following outcomes. Anong mga outcomes na yan? A student reveal their beliefs, misconceptions, and values and eventually clarify their thoughts related to the topic being discussed. A student become more adept in critical thinking. A student improve their listening skills and learn to better articulate their thoughts and ideas and become more tolerant of diverse opinions. So, alam naman natin na this Socratic inquiry ay authored on the name of the philosopher Socrates. So, through Socratic inquiry, it stimulates the learning through questioning or exchanging of information with teacher and student. So, this method or strategy encourages students to ask questions about their assumption, values, and preconception. So, therefore, the role of the teacher or as a future teacher shift from direct instruction to facilitating discussion. So, si teacher nag-facilitate lang ng interaction at discussion through skilled questioning. Through Socratic inquiry, we can allow ourselves to ask them different questions in terms of ecological literacy or environmental issues na pwede nilang ma-relate sa sarili nila. And then after giving some question to them, they can generate their thoughts based on their understanding or ano yung mga information na meron sila doon about dun sa binigay mong question. So, through that, nagkakaroon kayo ng interaction and then na-develop din yung critical thinking ng student. Then, next is experiential learning. Sabi, experiential learning, it promotes student involvement in the real world and defines the teacher role as a facilitator of learning. The process of learning leads to behavioral outcomes. It is based on the premises that learning is an active and a continuous process with experience at its foundation. It goes along with principle of learning associated environmental literacy. So, di ba nga, sabi sa Dale's Cone of Learning, mas natututo ang bata kapag mas na-experience nila yung natututunan nila or nai-apply nila sa real life situation, yung knowledge na natutunan nila. So, experiential learning is vital to schooling for sustainability since it is more on real life concept. Only through direct contact with the natural world will students develop an in-depth understanding of fundamental ecological principles. Since na-experience nila sa paligid nila and nakikita nila yung nangyayari sa paligid nila or mga different issue with the environment, through direct or integrating those experiences sa mga bata, pwede nating maituro na maayos yung ecological literacy concept. By working with others to solve real-world problems, they also develop skills at the heart of sustainable living. So through working with other people or their classmates, they can able to help each other in living or helping for sustainable development of our environment. When students participate in experiential learning, they frequently follow the learning cycle. This process that starts with unstructured exploration, followed by concept formation and application. So in experiential learning, it is more applicable to our student in teaching ecological literacy or ecological living. Kasi nga, through experiential learning, mas natututo sila. Kasi nga, na-experience sila in their own pace or by themselves. Halimbawa, sa pag-i-integrate ng mga environmental issues na nararanasan nila sa paligid nila. Halimbawa, yung pagkakaroon ng typhoon or another natural phenomenon. And by that natural issues or environmental issues na naranasan nila sa paligid nila, we can able to integrate them. How can they help to lessen those kind of issues like that? Next is the interdisciplinary learning. So it emphasizes the connection between traditionally discrete disciplines such as math, science, history, and language, rather than limiting learning to one content area at a time. So, through interdisciplinary learning, so hindi lang nakapokus sa isang discipline or sa isang subject, yung content na tinuturo natin. So, pwede siyang ma-integrate with other subject. Hindi lang nalilimit sa isang subject yung matututunan ng bata. So, here are the advantages of interdisciplinary learning. First, when teaching and learning are organized around these problems or issues, students seek knowledge and skill from a variety of disciplines to provide an expanded and more complex understanding of the topics. So, kapag interdisciplinary learning ang integrate natin, so hindi lang sa isang subject nila maiko-connect yung issues na nalaman nila. Then, they can also seek for other knowledge or ano nga ba kinalaman nitong natutunan ko na to sa iba pang subject. Next, when do we well, interdisciplinary approach eliminated fragmentation and learning of isolated school. So, hindi lang natin na lilimitahan yung kaalaman ng bata into the four corner of the subject. But also, may apply pa natin sa ibang subject at mapagko-connecta natin with the subject. It allows students to access a particular theme from different entry points as they work with range of source of information and perspective. So, hindi naman lahat ng naituturo natin is lahat yun ay connected with a particular subject. Halimbawa, sa social studies, hindi naman lahat ng concept na naituturo natin. Hindi lang yun is for that subject matter. There are some concept na pwede natin magamit in learning sa iba pang concept with other discipline. Next, it allows teacher to be better differentiate instruction and create more interesting and rich methods of assessments. So, halimbawa, kung nagtuturo tayo ng history, pag tinuturo natin halimbawa ang yung sa part ng history sa unang subject or sa unang unit ng topic sa history, halimbawa doon yung katangiang physical ng daigdig, since nasa history topic siya or sa history subject, pwede natin siya ma-integrate with other discipline, halimbawa sa geography and also sa anthropology, pwede natin ma-integrate yung mga pamumuhay, diba, ng mga tao with that particular places, halimbawa ganun. So, through different learning or instruction na ini-impose natin sa student. So, hindi magiging boring yung subject natin na tinuturo. Next, it increases student motivation for learning as well as their level of active engagement. Kasi hindi naman lahat ng student favorite yung topic na tinuturo mo o favorite yung subject na tinuturo mo. Yung iba dyan, talaga may mga ibang favorite subject. So, through interdisciplinary learning, they can motivate themselves to actively participate in discussion kasi nai-apply nila yung natutunan nila with their favorite or mas approachable sa kanilang content. And last, students recognize the value of their learning and become more involved in it. Next, students learn more when they apply a variety of skills to what they are studying and when they interact with their classmates, teachers, and members of the community. So, yan, through interdisciplinary learning, yung student, i-apply nila yung mga iba't iba nilang kakayahan about sa natutunan nila with other people, hindi lang sa corner ng classroom. Pwede rin kasi nila yung i-apply for their family or in the community. Next, interdisciplinary teaching and learning adheres to the principle that help define sustainable living. So, through interdisciplinary learning, makakatulong din to upang ipakita kung ano nga ba yung konsepto ng sustainable living and how the student show the sustainable living or the ecological living. So now, I have here one question that you can or we can reflect. So after learning the concept of ecological literacy or knowing the Dark school programs, the ecological living, the inner and outer ecology, and the different strategy in teaching, now, in what way you will teach ecological living to your future students? What approach you will use? So, anong paraan or sa paanong paraan mo maituturo sa mga student mo or sa student natin yung ecological living? So, sa tingin mo, ano yung approach na pwede mong gamitin para mas mapaunawa mo pa sa mga bata yung konsepto ng ecological living? That's all, and thank you for listening.